What's going on, guys? This is Rob, and if you're enjoying the content here on my channel, then make sure you hit the like button and make sure you hit subscribe so you can help decide what direction the content on my channel goes in the foreseeable future. Okay, so I'm kind of excited because I'm getting ready to go see Murder on the Orient Express, which is a movie I've been looking forward to for a long time, ever since they announced a trailer for it. I love the original and the book was incredible. The ending was a twist that I never saw coming, but I'm really hoping this remake proves to be as successful as the first one. Anyway, we are covering Days of Anger, which is basically Maestro Hulk versus Old Man Logan, and this is one of the coolest stories. Now keep in mind, up until this point, Old Man Logan's been written by a guy named Jeff Lemire, and it's been nothing short of spectacular. I mean, it's one of the greatest Wolverine runs ever done, but this story is written by Ed Brisson, and this is really good. I'm really excited to see what he does after this, but this also kind of offers a weird situation. This may be something that Brisson decides to follow up with later on, but at the moment we're not given immediate answers. What this comic initially does is it basically opens up with Maestro Hulk in his Bruce Banner form, talking to a handful of children about a better tomorrow, about all they have to do is basically quote unquote fix the world, make the world a place for the Hulks to live. Remember, Maestro Hulk is a version of the Incredible Hulk from an alternate universe called Future Imperfect. Now, the original Future Imperfect was written back in 1993 or something like that, and Maestro Hulk made his appearances before then. But the whole idea of him is that he is basically a version of the Incredible Hulk from a future where the world was basically plummeted into absolute chaos after a nuclear war. And so there's only real one location that humanity is able to reside in, and I believe it's called Dystopia. But basically, Maestro Hulk rules it with an iron fist. Now, in the original Future Imperfect story, the Incredible Hulk from the present day was yanked into the future and then basically told, we need you to defeat the Maestro. Initially, Hulk was had his neck broken. He was totally overpowered. Ultimately, it led to the Maestro being defeated, quote unquote, and then he made a few more appearances in Marvel Comics, whether in the Incredible Hulk line or in things like Exiles when they were touring alternate universes. But it's one of these scenarios where in Marvel Comics, whenever you read a story about a dystopian future, that is the absolute future. Usually an event happens and then that future changes and that future becomes a what if. It becomes, some alternate reality where things took place. And that's how a lot of this stuff works. The problem with this is we're not initially given immediate answers about Maestro. And again, we'll get into that as we sort of continue on. But what we end up doing is actually picking up in British Columbia with Old Man Logan himself. Now remember, during Jeff Lemire's run and presumably going now into Brisson's run, the whole idea of Old Man Logan is that he was basically thrown into the main Marvel universe after the events of Secret Wars. And so he's in a reality that's not his own. And the whole idea was him just kind of coming to grips with everything that was going on. But this brings into sharp relief him walking into a diner and basically discovering that the people who run the diner have been killed by all the individuals who were here, one of whom is named Billy Bob. And this is extremely important because if you recall the name Billy Bob, that was the name of one of the Incredible Hulks from the original Old Man Logan story. And that's when we find out not everybody in the Hulk family was killed. The original Old Man Logan story was basically just a future where the villains took over the world. And that was it. They destroyed all the superheroes. They were led by Red Skull. They conquered everything. Wolverine was basically tricked into killing all of the X-Men and as a result had essentially just retreated to a simple farm life. In this part of the country that he lived in on the West Coast, everything from Washington State all the way down to California was all run by Bruce Banner, the Incredible Hulk, in the Old Man Logan story. It's basically all these, inbred kids of Bruce Banner and Jennifer Walters, both of whom were just kind of driven insane by all the radiation from, war that had broken out. At the end of the Old Man Logan story, where Old Man Logan had gone off on this quest with the old version of Hawkeye in order to try to see if they could basically recreate Captain America, only to find out that it was a ruse. When he came back home, the Hulk family had killed Logan's family, and so in response, he went to their trailer park and killed them all, including Bruce Banner. What this story reveals is that where originally in that story, Old Man Logan had taken this newborn baby Hulk, basically, and let Billy Bob go, that we ended up learning there were other Hulks that simply just were not in that location at the time. But at the moment, it's really just Old Man Logan is stuck in a situation where it's more questions and answers. How did they get here? What in the world is going on? And that's the cool thing about this is because on the surface, it offers that explanation. It's basically this idea where he's facing off against all these Hulks. They're throwing everything, including pots of grease and the whole 9 yards. It offers this idea that they're there for just basic revenge, and that's it. But when Billy Bob effectively takes off and runs back to their base of operations, we end up finding out that they're being led by Maestro. And so again, this is a huge deal because something I hope you notice here is Maestro is a lot more intuitive and a lot more more intelligent than the Incredible Hulk that we're used to. But the first seeds of people who don't necessarily view his intentions in the same way he does comes with Cambria. But the problem is that Billy Bob basically threw away the element of surprise. When Billy Bob retreated and took off running, what it did is it created a trail. And Old Man Logan, with his enhanced senses and so on and so forth, can follow that trail. And that's the important thing, because that's the first thing that Maestro Hulk realizes. As soon as Billy Bob shows up and says, "Hey man, everybody out there, they were killed by, this old guy with claws," Maestro immediately realizes if he's anything like the Wolverine that Maestro is used to from his own reality, then Old Man Logan will find them. And so what it does is it immediately shrinks the timetable. And that's the important thing about this, because Old Man Logan does just that. He immediately begins to go on the hunt of sorts and tries to track down all these different versions of the Hulk family. And so what they end up doing is basically saying, okay, we need to move to a new location, because where previously they were occupying a Department H facility, which is part of the Weapon X story that we haven't really dealt with. What they end up doing is actually traveling to the Yukon Territory in Canada under the auspices of taking over another facility and operating from there. Just because Maestro has taken up residence in a new location does not mean that he's lowered his guard. It does not mean that he's resting on his laurels. Instead, it's going to be jumping from one facility to the next, or one location to the next, staying one step ahead of Old Man Logan, constantly keeping him chasing after them. And so that's kind of an important thing here, because one of the other things that Maestro Hulk basically says is they're going to, quote unquote, make the world a better place. They're going to eliminate humanity. He basically wants to make the future imperfect world on the main Marvel universe, which is to say he wants to annihilate all of humanity and then force whoever's left to live under his control. It's basically a desire to regain the power that he had during the Future Imperfect story. He just wants power, and that's it. He's every villain ever. The other half of this is that we actually pick up with Old Man Logan reaching out to Puck. Puck was originally a teammate of the original Wolverine on a group called Alpha Flight. And Alpha Flight was a Canadian special ops team that was based out of Department K, I think it was. And it was just one of those weird things where it was just kind of like, okay, Canada superhero team. And Puck's pretty cool, but when All New, All Different Marvel kicked off, because Alpha Flight was kind of like this unsellable thing in the sense that it does have fans, but it was never one of these high profile teams like Avengers, what Marvel did is they grabbed Alpha Flight and they rolled it over into SWORD, the Sentient World Observation and Response Department. Basically this sort of spacefaring agency like S.H.I.E.L.D. in the sense that S.H.I.E.L.D. monitors Earth, SWORD monitors other planets, really monitors space itself for any threat that may impact the Earth. And so Alpha Flight's just operating under Captain Marvel Carol Danvers, and that's really about it. But this is important, is because with SWORD operating outside the United States and outside the world, while they're not necessarily supposed to monitor the US itself, they really do. I mean, in a lot of ways, they have access to all the technology that S.H.I.E.L.D. has access to because they're kind of sister organizations. And so because of that, Old Man Logan calls in a favor and says, some nuclear weapons left a Department H facility. I need to know where they're going, or at the very least, where they are right now. And so again, because of the fact that these are nuclear weapons, they have to have location devices, if for no other reason than the idea that the person who launches them has to know where they're going. And so with these location devices based on radio frequencies, it's nothing for, Puck to basically tap into those radio locations and say, the nuclear weapons are here. So again, this allows Old Man Logan to basically continue the process of tracking down the Hulk family. Now, the cool thing about this is that what we end up running into is Maestro essentially telling his guys, at least telling Buck, one of the members of the Hulk family, two main things. The first is Old Man Logan will not stop until he gets here. So you have two jobs to do. The first is to go out, find Old Man Logan, and keep shooting until you're out of ammo. The second is to take Billy Bob with you and kill him. Now, this is pretty ruthless, but that's how Maestro Hulk is. This campaign is followed out exactly the way that Maestro Hulk specifies. Buck and all these guys immediately target, Old Man Logan, start loading him full of bullets, the whole 9 yards, and initially incapacitate him. The problem is that when they send Billy Bob out there to issue the killing shot, because Billy Bob was the last person in the Hulk compound to be left alive in the original Old Man Logan story, his gun's full of blanks, and the Hulk family shoots him to death. So again, it's pretty brutal, but that's how things are now under Maestro. And so what this does is this switches over to the Old Man Logan story with really this old Hawkeye and Old Man Logan himself just kind of hanging out. This takes place in that point in the story when Hawkeye showed up on the doorstep of Old Man Logan and said, hey, look, I need you to help me with a mission to basically revive the super soldier program. And so it's just one of those little interim things, not super significant, but with regards to Old Man Logan himself in the here and now, he's more or less just been strung up and he's just being used to just target practice. He's just being used for the purpose of the Hulk family getting their revenge. In truth, if you read between the lines, Maestro Hulk, being as intelligent as he is, knows the only way for him to maintain his campaign is to ensure that people under him are happy. And so it's very much, one of these militaristic, really like a governmental campaign. Give the people just enough of a reason to not complain and everything will be fine. If you push them to the point where they feel like they have nothing left, then they'll attack. All they have to do is believe that what he says is true, and they'll do anything he asks. It's very government-like in that capacity. And so, of course, with Old Man Logan being tormented, he's not unintelligent. He's learned every trick of the trade. And talking to Buck and basically saying, poking fun at the idea that Old Man Logan killed his whole family, basically saying, hey, look, man, this reminds me, of your Hulk family, man, that kind of thing. I would have been laughing about killing him if I wasn't so busy killing them, just preying on that, poking fun of him, basically saying, you've lost everything you care about and you're just as inept as everybody else that I killed. Sends Hulk into a fury of sorts, and in his anger and in his rage, he offers Old Man Logan the escape by smashing the pillar he's being strapped to, and Old Man Logan kills him. Following that, it's an absolute bloodbath. I mean, he takes on every last one of these members of the Hulk family, and the last one who's left alive spills the beans on everything. And so transitioning over to Maestro, when we end up having Malachi, basically one of the kids here, go to Maestro and say, hey, look, Cambria took off. She doesn't seem to be, aligned with your viewpoints, different things like that. Maestro says, okay, we'll track her down later, but we've got bigger fish to fry. It's basically splitting the difference. And again, that's the military tactical nature of Maestro. When he sits down and he says, we have a choice, we're at a crossroads. Either we can carry out my campaign or we can go after Cambria. At the end of the day, it's carry out my campaign. Old Man Logan's gonna catch us eventually. So the sooner we carry this out, the sooner we can deal with him, and the sooner I get the world that I want. So what we end up doing is jumping back to Old Man Logan himself, hiding out and trying to get his bearings, and he's met by the arrival of the modern day Hawkeye. Now again, this is cool. And this is one of the reasons why Old Man Logan is so intriguing, because at this moment right now, he's stuck at an impasse of sorts in the sense that he's trying to figure out how to handle the character of Hawkeye. But before we jump into that, we kind of jump back to this, flashback that Old Man Logan has, again, when he's spending time with the old version of Hawkeye in the original Old Man Logan story. And we end up finding out that Cambria is a person they've already met before. That Cambria was basically someone who defected from Bruce Banner's family. She didn't like the idea of being part of their whole group, but she was basically stealing pigs from Old Man Logan's farm in order to keep her appetite satiated and so on and so forth. Old Man Logan let her take one, but said, look, you can't keep doing this. The response of old Hawkeye was to shoot her. But because of the fact that Old Man Logan spared her life, this comes back to roost in the here and now. Because what ends up happening is picking up with Hawkeye himself and with Old Man Logan, it's kind of cool because Old Man Logan basically says, look, and it's already been established in Old Man Logan's universe, Hawkeye dies. I mean, he basically gets shot in the head. And even Old Man Logan goes as far as to say this. When Hawkeye says, hey, what am I like in your future, in your timeline? Am I cool? Am I awesome? Old Man Logan says, actually, no, you're not. You marry Spider-Man's daughter, you end up getting cataracts, you go blind, and you get shot in the head and die. It's a pretty miserable life. It's not the glorious of futures, for Hawkeye. And so it's kind of funny. The issue with this is that this is how things started when it came to Old Man Logan and the old Hawkeye. In the Old Man Logan story, Hawkeye just showed up on his doorstep, old, blind, said, hey, look, I need your help, and they went on a road trip. The last time this happened, Hawkeye was shot in the head. That's what Old Man Logan is afraid of repeating itself. The circumstances might be different, but the idea is that it will end in Hawkeye dying, and that's what he's afraid of, the cycle repeating itself and him being unable to save a friend. And so that's when we end up learning the whole basis behind what it is that Maestro Hulk wants to do is basically grab his Hulk family and send each one of them to a major metropolitan city and blow it up using a nuke, sending humanity scattering to the winds. That's the goal here. Annihilate major cities. Because when that happens, humanity will do the only thing it knows how to do. It'll flee to petty warlords. It'll flee to anybody who can offer a measure of protection. And that's what he's shooting for. Take those who are too weak to protect themselves, who can't survive the harsh environment of a lawless world, bring them under his rule, and crown himself as a warlord. The other half of this is the character of Cambria herself. Because of the fact that she was the girl that Old Man Logan had saved in his own universe, when she defects, she immediately heads to him because her hope is that he'll recognize her, which he does. And that's when he tells Hawkeye, stand down, she's on our side if she says she's on our side. So again, there's a little bit of camaraderie here. Not only that, because of the fact that all these versions of the Hulk family start showing up in all these major cities, the crisis is immediately diverted. And the reason for this is because there were basically fail-safes fail-safes installed in each and every one of these nuclear weapons that if a person used them without the right access codes, that they would ultimately just kind of fail. Now, in truth, it was really the only way to wrap this story up, right? I mean, a lot of people may say, man, that's just kind of like a throwaway thing, but it was the only way to wrap it up, unless we're talking about actually detonating bombs throughout all the major cities in the Marvel Universe, in which case, good luck getting everybody else to fall in line with that continuity. So comic logic is par for the course. What we end up getting instead of this massive, global apocalypse is Maestro Hulk fighting Old Man Logan. And it's super cool because this is a ruthless battle between the two. Almost immediately after this skirmish starts, Malachi basically picks up one of the nuclear bombs and says, hey, look, if you do not stop, I'm gonna blow us both up. But Malachi is basically talked down by the combined efforts of Cambria, Old Man Logan, and Hawkeye, and that kind of a thing. But when Maestro comes back too and tries to detonate this bomb and is ultimately stopped, him and Old Man Logan immediately jump into it. And it's a cool thing. Now, in truth, if this was 1993 and this was a story that was being told, no way Old Man Logan would stand a chance. Not happening. But it is cool to see this happen because, Old Man Logan doesn't know who Maestro Hulk is. Maestro Hulk doesn't really know who Old Man Logan is. He just views him as a version of Wolverine from a different universe that was thrown into the main Marvel universe, and that was about it. And even with the backstory, we're not given any information of how Maestro Hulk arrived in the Old Man Logan story. He was in the Contest of Champions story, but that story ended with him in a giant cell. So, I mean, it's not like one leads to the others. We have no way to connect the dots. But Maestro Hulk isn't necessarily a guy who, while he is looking for the future and perfect thing, it's not absolute power and absolute conquering that he's shooting for. In his mind, because of the fact that Bruce Banner was killed in this universe during the events of Civil War II, then it's basically him saying, it's only a matter of time before they seek us out. And it's only a matter of time before they kill us. When that time comes, either we can be ahead of the ball, we can be ahead of the game, or we can be stuck behind the 8-ball. But the whole idea of Old Man Logan is he's trying to find solace in this universe. He's trying to find a life worth living. That'll be disrupted all to pieces when the original Wolverine comes back, and I'm really excited to see when those two characters meet. Imagine that. Old Man Logan meets Wolverine, meets classic Wolverine. That'll be a story for the ages, I would hope anyway. But this really kind of winds down fast because what it does is Ed Brisson grabs the character of Maestro and says he's going to return. He's going to come back. He really kind of plays into the character of Maestro. Maestro says, look, run away, live to fight another day. And so he ends up just backing off. He ends up just walking away and saying, look, you are a lot more capable than I thought you were, but my schemes are never done. I will return. And he effectively just leaves. Now, some people kind of consider that to be somewhat of a weak ending, but I don't. I mean, I look at it as basically Brisson saying Maestro Hulk will come back in some form or fashion. Maybe he'll come back in the Old Man Logan story. Maybe he'll come back in a different story, but regardless, we'll see him again. And that's kind of what I'm looking forward to in this, is because it's the idea of him returning. But things wrap up pretty straightforward. I mean, that's it. It's Hawkeye, Old Man Logan, basically talking about the nature of Maestro Hulk, what Old Man Logan learned, effectively everything that I just told you about Future Imperfect, and it's them just kind of continuing their friendship, and that's really about it. Things just kind of wrap up pretty quick, but it's a cool story. It's a cool concept. Maestro's always been one of my favorite versions of the Incredible Hulk. Having him encounter Old Man Logan continues this idea that there are still characters out there after the events of Secret Wars that can still be rolled over into the main Marvel Universe and still give us some pretty darn good storytelling. But with that being said, guys, we're gonna go ahead and bring this video to an end. If you are new here to Comics Explained, make sure you guys hit the sub button to become part of the Rob Corps. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a like, and I will catch you all later. Peace.